Welcome to CineMyles, the show for cinephiles. I'm your host, Miles Hughes. I'm joined once again by Miss Becca Wucker, and we just saw The Handmaiden, the new film from Park Chan-Wook, the South Korean auteur that brought us Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, and Stoker, among others. This is one of the most beautiful films I've seen in a really long time, and there's not much else I can say about it because the plot is so twist-heavy that I don't really want to get that into it.
It's really hard to talk about. The acting is spectacular. Some of the best acting I've seen in a really long time. The writing is phenomenal. I feel like I'm always complaining about films with poor plots or like big plot holes.
The basic simplistic synopsis is that it's about a con artist named Suki. She becomes the handmaiden of this lady Hideko who has this massive fortune, and Suki is working for a count who wants to marry Hideko and then send her off to a madhouse so that he can get the fortune. And that's like the bare bones of it, but
plenty of twists ensue.
Like so many twists, like more twists than you think any one movie can handle.
But I think they're reasonable. Like I don't think there's ever a moment where you're like, that's too big of a stretch. It's, again, really well woven. Like there's not a moment in it where you can't suspend your disbelief. Like right. I think part of it's the writing, but part of it's the acting. I mean, it is a gorgeous show of basically people wearing these interesting, intricate masks.
Yes. It's not a movie that's trying to be clever or trying to fake you out in any way. It's all woven into to the characters and their motivations and their relationships to one another, which are constantly evolving.
Yeah. Very sexually explicit. They don't feel too exploitive of the lesbian characters. Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of movies, cough, blue is the warmest color, feel very for straight men watching it, and I feel like this movie didn't feel like that. I mean, there were a few moments, granted, where it maybe inched towards that, but for the most part it felt very believable.
The scenes themselves, they are incredibly erotic, and they don't hold back in terms of what they show you, but it never feels pornographic or exploitative in any way. It feels like, you know, it's a big plot point that they have these scenes, and, you know, the movie wouldn't be as effective without them. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not pushing that in your face. Kind of violent, mostly towards the end, but not in a way that you might expect from the director of Old Boy. I have to talk about how gorgeous this movie is. Some of the best cinematography I've ever seen. Like, it is visually stunning to look at. Yeah. All the technical aspects, like, I usually don't talk about things like production design or costumes, but, like, everything across the board just looked great. The attention to detail, all the period stuff. I really love the score.
The score was gorgeous. The costumes were absolutely gorgeous. It's got a lengthy runtime, but...
And it feels its length a few times, but never, like, just when you start to think, okay, it's going a little long, something else really interesting happens.
Yeah, but it's never at the expense of, like, oh, look at this gorgeous costume. The gorgeous costumes are really, truly there just to emphasize at the beginning the wealth around them. Like, her costumes with all the intricate buttons and, I don't know, it's...
all the finery.
I was stunned by it, but it was never distracting.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not a movie. It's actually a lot more fast-paced, like with the editing and with the presentation of things. Even the camera work was very fascinating. It's not like a stuffy period piece that you might think from like some of the promotional stuff. Like the camera's constantly moving around, and like the scenes pop or like jump from one to the other pretty quickly. So it doesn't like luxuriate in any of its nice stuff. It's just there for you to appreciate.
It did take me a while to get used to some of the camera movement.
It's not like a formal or traditional film in the way it's shot.
There's quite a few sweeping shots that kind of are like, oh, okay, we're going here now.
Yeah, like that sort of shows how modern the film is, because I don't think you'd see some of those shots in an older movie.
Well, that's what was really nice about it, was that it had the period feel to it, but all the camera work felt very modern. You never felt removed from it.
Sure.
There were moments I would even forget it was a period piece just because the acting was so relatable and well done. And then someone would do something like, he took out his cigarettes at one point, and I thought he was taking out his phone, but he was taking out his cigarettes, and I was like, oh wait, yes, this is a period piece.
Well, that might have been because I think somebody in the audience, their phone rang at like almost that exact moment, so I had that same thought. It's like, does he have a cell phone all of a sudden? It takes place in South Korea, but there's a heavy Japanese influence throughout the whole film.
And there's a heavy English influence too.
So it's got all those traditional sort of elements, but at the same time it is like, you know, World War II is like just about to break out probably, and like, so there's a lot of the modern stuff that's sort of surrounding it. Like at one point they're out on the street and you see like a guy with like a full Japanese robe, but like he's reading the newspaper, and like, I don't know, just it's an interesting transitional period that I don't feel like gets shown in film a lot.
Well, there's a point where one of the characters is showing another character pictures of a house. Mm-hmm. And for a moment, I was like, why doesn't he just show her the place on Zillow? And then I was like, oh, I guess this is how you did that back in the day. You just took out some old, like, black and white pictures and were like, I know they're kind of blurry, but this is what it looks like.
Like this big,
yeah, like,
too.
Let me just look at this really...
Like, let me squint. Like, their eyesight must have been really good back then.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't go to
CineMyles. It won't. I really don't want to spoil anything for you. Like, find out as little as possible. Just, this is one of those, like, leap of faith movies where you gotta just take our word for it that it's great, and I highly, highly recommend it. Don't ruin it for yourself. Just go in as blind as possible, and you'll definitely be glad you did. So that's The Handmaiden. Thank you for watching CineMyles. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things. Thank you for joining me, Becca.
Thank you.
And we'll see y'all on the flip side. Have a good night.